What was really interesting from some of the discussions at the RAD was that people started focusing on the root causes. There were some lovely ways to start thinking about how you look at systems and how you start understanding what those root causes might be. So I think there was a lovely way of saying, how do you kind of look up, look out, look deep, and these kind of pivots where you can look in multiple different ways to try and understand why these causes are there, and really trying to think of why are we locked in, and systems are actually quite resilient to change, and how can we start understanding about where those little intervention points might be where we can start creating these pockets of change, and how we can connect some of those pockets of change for broader change.
We're interested in resilience in the sense that in whatever we are doing, resilience captures the issue of interaction of different systems. So food systems, environmental systems, economic systems, and all these need to be interrogated in order for somebody to tell a story that we've helped a community move from point A to point B. Our ultimate goal in humanitarian and development assistance is how are we leaving the community? Because our ultimate goal is to leave them better. We come from food security, but we appreciate that food security goes along with water, goes along with infrastructure. So all this need to be looked at in totality. And resilience gives us that platform to be able to discuss and interrogate these issues correctly.
We need to stop using a reductionist approach and a simplist approach of unpacking things, but we need to start packing things back together again. It's not only about identifying the actors and the key institutions and key stakeholders, but it's focusing on the relationships, how they interact with one another, how they interact with the environment.
So for me, one thing I continue to remember from my grandmother, my grandfather, is how intricately their life was linked to their natural system, to their land, to the river, to the forest around the village and all that. And you could see that in what they say, how they lived, what they ate, and how is it that we believe that probably our society norms, traditions and culture have nothing to do with our natural environment.
That seems to me, I don't think there's much debate that most of us are using resilience because it offers us a way into the system. And the system is very important to understanding the resilience of an individual all the way through to the system itself.
One of the really interesting discussion points that came out of the dialogue that we're having is how the concept of resilience can be useful for thinking about systems. And it's a really useful entry point for thinking about what are the important components of a system that we need to be focusing on when we think about development options, planning different projects. And one thing that was really interesting to me was some people raised the fact that it's not always about building resilience, but it's also about breaking down resilience. Because once we understand what makes up a resilient system and how we can boost resilience, we can also understand how we can break systems that are locked into these really unsustainable and inequitable resilient systems. When we brought different people together to talk about how they've used resilience, we really started understanding the nuances, some of the innovations where we can expand the theory, but also think of practical tools to implement some of these ways of thinking and doing in the different spaces where we work.
Number one issue for them from everything is soil fertility. But we don't have any intervention in our program on soil fertility. That's because for years it's a commercial farming. They use huge inorganic fertilizer and the soil fertility is done. And for example, if you go to Nigeria, Ethiopia, they have soil map. And they have some recommendation of fertilizer for different soils. It's not like a blanket recommendation of 50 kg, 5 kg for the whole country, but depends on the type of the soil. For each village, there is a recommendation fertilizer. But in Zimbabwe, we don't have that one. So that's a systemic issue. And there are some intervention we need to do in terms of improving soil fertility, but there are some systemic issues at a macro level we need to work with the government as part of our policy influence.
So it's really important, the idea of acknowledging our local knowledge systems and how do we harness them to be able to inform the future that we want.
One thing that we must also be cognizant of is that before the donors walked in, we had a system that was working, even though it's broken, but there's something that's going on. So what we're trying to do with the interventions is also, as much as we talk of local knowledge, we're trying to say, let's be aware of the social systems, the coalitions, the relationships, so that we improve that. So in cases where it's broken, where it's not functioning, where there are bottlenecks, let's improve the coalitions, the partnering, the social structures. So our programmatic interventions are focused more on that, to improve the coalitions, as opposed to just say, let's focus on people. Yes, we know that people are important in terms of the entire system, but it's more important to focus on strategic partnering, coalitions, collaborations, social structures, and to be able to improve that.
What's the abilities that needs to be present within SADC systems in order for this to become resilient? And the four ones: anticipative, adaptive, transformative, absorptive. I think you're all very, very familiar with this. But there's a host of other things as well out there, which we need to ask if this is present, to what extent it is present within the system. How does it contribute to the resilience?